So, I have to do this video because it's getting to the point where this is just annoying me. As a millennial, do I have a bias? Yes, I want Bernie to be president. Is that a bias? Yes, it is. And is it a bias when I post pro-Bernie stuff? Of course it is. But do I post it because I hate the opposition? No. Look, here's the truth about the way millennials view politics. We have biases, but most of us try to be objective as possible and looking at both sides of the story before coming to our own opinion. Like when it comes to gun regulation, should we have tougher gun regulation to prevent people that have histories of criminal backgrounds and mental issues from having a weapon? Of course. We should do that. But also on the other hand, though, you can't make the gun regulation so tough that someone who has no criminal history background, someone who has no mental problem from getting a weapon. That's inevitably what that does. We need to have a tough gun law that restricts the crazies from getting a weapon, but at the same time, though, we have to make sure that everyone else who isn't a crazy is able to get a gun if they want to. And so that's my own conclusion that I've come up to when I looked at both sides and said, okay, this is what I agree with, this is what I disagree with. And this is what I do when I do my political videos. I try to be objective as possible. I try to do what journalists did years ago. Do objective reporting. Now, here's a problem. I feel as though that the millennial generation, my generation, doesn't matter if you're progressive, conservative, or independent thinking like I am. And I'm a progressive liberal. But I'm pretty independent in my thinking. I see some conservative point of view, I see some liberal point of view that I agree with, and that makes me very independent in my thinking. So, as someone who's very independent in thinking, a lot of people don't understand why we think the way we do, why we view politics the way we do, why we see the world differently than everyone else does. So, here's what happens. That a lot of people don't understand. Everyone is told the truth. And I put the truth in quotations for a reason. Because when you hear the truth, there's a literal truth that the media is paid to not talk about. For example, corruption in politics. What is the truth that we all hear? That there were super PACs in politics. Right? That is the truth. But the literal truth is actually much more disturbing than the truth. The literal truth is that a lot of these super PAC checks come from countries that are very anti-gay and that are very anti-woman and that are very anti-civil rights. And this is what a lot of Republicans and Democrats get their money from. A lot of countries that are anti-gay, anti-woman, and anti-civil rights. That is the literal truth. There is the truth that we're meant to see, and there is the literal truth that we're not meant to see. Because if the government let the American people see the literal truth, there would be a riot everywhere. Now, in the midst of this election, you have the news media who won't cover anything positive about Bernie. Not at all. The only one I will say, though, is Joe Scarborough. He actually does give some credibility to Bernie. Every now and then, he'll do a story or a show exclusively based on Bernie Sanders. I'll give him that credit. He, out of all people on MSNBC, at least he talks about Bernie Sanders and doesn't ignore him like everyone else does. So, when you see the news, like CNN, for example, they'll tell you, oh, Bernie Sanders would make a bad president because of this daily news information. Okay, that interview was lousy. If you actually read the interview, or read any of the questions from the interview like I did, you would know that it was set up as a trap. However, though, if you actually go to the literal truth of the Daily News, the person who owns the Daily News newspaper is a Hillary supporter and hired specific journalists who are so pro-Hillary that they'll try to make Bernie Sanders seem incompatible as president. There's an art to journalism. I'm aware of that. I watched news pretty much every weekday growing up. I watched Peter Jennings when I was a kid. He was my generation's Walter Cronkite. My mom's generation's Walter Cronkite, to be more specific. So, I would watch Peter Jennings. And Peter Jennings' facial expressions meant everything to him. And to his news workers, his staffers that gave him the stories that he reported. Now, Peter Jennings was the person who didn't want to take sides. He did objective news reporting. He was one of the last few news reporters who actually did objective news reporting. So, perfect example, during the 2004 election season, I should say, was in 2003, there was a news story that he was covering, which was so anti-Kerry, he literally said, "We'll be right back." And why did he say "we'll be right back"? So he could literally yell at the people that says, "Don't give me anything pro-Bush or pro-Kerry. Give me something that is the facts, the actual truth, the literal truth." And that's where American media is failing. Because they've given in to these big banks and corporations. They've given in to these people who do not want you to know the literal truth. They only want you to know the truth because sometimes the truth isn't really the truth. It's a lie to disguise the truth. And with people like me, seeing both sides of the story, we could point out what the literal truth is without being pointed to it. Because that's how bad they're getting away with lying. I'll put it to you like this. The media overall is like a 10-year-old that forgot how to lie. A 5-year-old can lie better than a 10-year-old. Why? Because they're still a kid. They don't know what they're doing is wrong. But a 10-year-old know what they do is wrong, and they lie badly about knowing how bad the thing was that they did. And that's what the media is doing to the American people, lying badly. So, Next time you ever hear someone or see something on the internet that goes, oh, Bernie's incompatible, Trump's incompatible, Hillary, anything along those lines, ask them, do they know the literal truth? For example, I'll give you a rundown of every candidate. Bernie, for example, is told, oh, he's in the pockets of the gun industry. What's the literal truth? He has a very poor rating record with the NRA. Ask yourself, if someone was in the pockets of the NRA, would they have a bad grading system with them? Trump, as of now, right now, they say Trump is exactly like Hitler. Now, I say that he says some things that make him sound like Adolf Hitler. I don't say he's literally like Hitler, but there are liberals who say Trump is literally Adolf Hitler. Okay. Wrong. What was one thing that Hitler was a fan of that Trump isn't? Mass genocide. Hitler said, let's kill all the Jews and make an Aryan race. That's an actual Hitler quote. Did Trump ever come out in favor of genocide? No. That is the literal truth. He is not like Hitler. Because if he was exactly 100% like Hitler, he would round up everyone who didn't have blonde hair and blue eyes. That would include white people who don't have blonde hair and blue eyes. So, yeah, saying Trump is literally like Hitler is a fallacy within itself. Hillary Clinton. Here's what the truth is said about her. Oh, she fought for the American people as First Lady. Yes and no. Did she talk about women's rights as First Lady more than Nancy Reagan? Oh, hell yeah. Credit to her there. But here's the problem, though. While she was First Lady, there was a bankruptcy bill. And Elizabeth Warren at the time knew this bill was detrimental. And she knew this bill was detrimental because she looked at exactly what this bill was, and she realized it would end up hurting single mothers and children because it would put them into so much credit card debt. And she spoke to Hillary Clinton about it at the White House. And Hillary caught on and said, yeah, this bill is awful. I'm going to talk to Bill about it, and he's going to veto it. He did veto it. Hillary convinced him it was bad. Come 2002, when she's in Congress, what does she champion? The same exact bill that she told Bill Clinton not to go through because it would affect single mothers and children through credit card debt. She championed that same bankruptcy bill, saying it would be good for American card users. That's the literal truth about Hillary. She's a flip-flopper. She does things when she's given money, or when she's convinced enough through emotion. But she gravitates towards the money more. Ted Cruz. Obama birther. And he says that he would make a great Republican president. Sorry, Ted, but you were born in Canada. Not only were you born in Canada, your mother renounced her American citizenship when she moved to Canada, and she's on the Canadian voting registration, so therefore you aren't qualified to run for president. Kasich. Moderate Republican. Okay, literal truth. Wants women to go back to their positions in the household as they were in the 1950s. Because Kasich said after he won Ohio, women left their kitchens to vote for me. That's the literal truth about John Kasich. He wants women to go back to the, yeah, let the man tell you everything to do era. So, why do I be objective? For this reason alone. Because I can read the news and say, that's not what you said before. And so, yeah. That's why I want to make this video, because I feel as though I want to show that millennials are not dumb, but in fact we are actually smart, because we have the information in front of us and we have the ability to see through bullshit. Yep. See you guys.